Joe. All right. Shall we do the picture now? All right. Now here's one cardinal rule with Amar. He always does a selfie, and he's going to do the selfie right at the beginning with all of us. Yes. All right. So where is the selfie? Are you going to do this?
We need to look this way.
We're going to look this way.
Yes.
Okay.
Please stand back up.
Okay. All right. This is a ritual.
And this selfie will probably go on social media, so if you're shy, hide under the chair. So maybe if we huddle up a bit, it should work.
All right.
There? Okay. There you go. And then I usually like to have some energy in the picture, so I ask you guys to say...
Data ops. Transformer. All right.
So count to 3, and then they should say transformer.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Transform. All right.
Thank you.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, really, thank you, everybody. It's an illustrious crowd we have, and how illustrious they are, I'm going to let them give a little brief description. So, Alex, did you want to start?
Thank you. Alex Gorelick, founder, CTO of Waterline Data. Been working on data ops, data governance, all sorts of data for a very long time. I'll be talking later about data ops and data lakes. So if you are interested in more details, please stop by.
Excellent. Sandeep?
Sandeep Dorawala, I'm a vice president with Booz Allen Hamilton. I lead a portion of our digital practice for the United States Department of Defense and various clients within that.
And the founding father of data ops in Booz Allen. I'm going to give you that.
Hi, I'm Joe Hellerstein. I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer at Trifacta. In my spare time, I'm a professor of computer science at UC Berkeley, and data wrangling is what Trifacta does.
John?
Hello, I'm John Schmitz. I'm a business architect at Proact Digital. I help companies with their transformation, and I'm the author of the Data Ops book. I think I've signed about 100 copies last night, so if you haven't got one yet, lunchtime.
And I'm Amr Awadallah. I'm co-founder and CTO for Cloudera.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me up here. And let's start right off with the question. Alex, what does data ops mean to you? And from a technical perspective, we have this lofty data transformation and other things. But what does data ops really mean?
You know, it's a new term, and we've obviously been working with data for a long time. And you've heard a lot about data ops. I think fundamentally it has 3 phases, right? Development phase, and you heard from Dan how much time they spend prototyping, doing MVPs of models and analytics, and then productizing that, right? Putting it into production and operationalizing it across the large enterprise. So doing it all in an agile way with reuse and reliability and governance, because data is not like software, right? Data has compliance requirements and has history in it, and it changes, and it's messy, and so forth.
Okay. How about you, Sandeep? You work with some very complex companies and agencies. What is the special twist in a government organization?
Yeah, I think mission knowledge is very key. The DoD has it's a 4 million person organization doing a lot of different things, and so for us, it's really combining that mission knowledge, whether it's around logistics, war fighting, personnel, you have it, and combining that with our digital and data analytics teams to effectively get the right business decisions to that functional domain leader as quickly as possible. DoD has invested a lot over the last few years in migrating towards cloud technologies. Historically, they've been on-prem, operating all their data stores on-prem. And as that transition happens, this is a great time, I think, for us to really accelerate the adoption of data ops.
Okay, great, Joe.
Well, I think we have to recognize we're at a huge inflection point in the technology that all of us work with. We used to talk about computing as our industry, and people who worked with data were sort of on the side. They were the people, sort of in IT in the background, kind of making sure the bills got paid. We all understand now that computation has data at its core. which means that we really need to think anew as a community about how is data managed through its life cycle and how does it affect applications and live computation, which is really a very different thing than what we've been dealing with before. And there's a much larger population of professionals that are going to interact with data than we ever thought about before. So a term like data ops is a great way for us to rally around this inflection point. I'm really happy to see terminology kind of come to the fore.
Yeah, no. And John, I know you're going to say read the book, but I'm going to say, what is the synopsis of that while you nurse your right hand signing on?
Well, we live in a data-driven world, and I think for me, data ops is about translating the engineering effort of data to an operational effort. You just have to use data. And to me, the ultimate form is whenever we get to the point where my mother can do it, then we're done. We're not quite there yet, but that's where we're going, and making it that easy for anybody to use data, find it, and consume it.
Okay, Amr.
I thought data ops was just a marketing term.
No, it's actually a real term, and growing term.
I was doing some research actually on the origins of data ops, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the first article I could find about data ops was from about 5 years ago, and it was by Tamer.
Yep.
And I can't remember the name of the gentleman who wrote that article or blog post. But yeah, what he advocated for is the same way we have DevOps, which are procedures to bring engineering principles to how we deploy software and how we monitor it and make it a continuous life cycle. Let's do that for data. And I think that makes perfect sense because as we saw Josh talk earlier about how they do machine learning at Slack, and everybody else has to go through this problem. You're not going to be running just one model. You're going to be running many, many models at the same time on top of your data, and you want to be able to measure them continuously and assess whether they're working or not. And you won't be able to do that if you don't have a good data ops infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think, just a point that was really interesting yesterday, some of the keynotes Mark Ramsey and others mentioned is this whole plumbing and systems of data gathering to give it to different platforms, whether it's on-prem or cloud, was always relegated. And Joe, you made a very good point. There's an inflection point. If you supply the information, the right quality, in the right way, in a fast way, people can do magical things with it. And that's where the data ops really is discipline. And it takes many, many different elements and different kind of solutions to bring that. But just kind of getting, Amar, you guys, your name is Cloudera. And it's fair to say, even though the vision was there more than 10 years ago, a lot of things were on-prem. Obviously, there's on the cloud hybrid. But how is your company building the value, and also for the data ops community, right?
Yeah, our name is Cloudera because version 1 of the company that we built 11 years ago was going to be a cloud service that allows our customers to upload all of their data to us, do their work, and download results. And that was the name Cloudera. And as we started to go out and pitch the product to customers, again, this is 11 years ago, the cloud was there, but the cloud was more for front-end apps like mobile apps and web apps, but not necessarily for back office data. Most companies still back then considered that to be very, very critical to go outside of their infrastructure, and I would say that's true even today. And hence, we shifted the company to be more focused on delivering an on-premise platform that our customers can deploy on-premise and still achieve the same results. And then I would say about 4 years ago, the industry started to get a lot more comfortable with not just having front-end web apps out there, but also have back office core data assets out there in the cloud as well. I think a lot more organizations started to be more confident in the security and the capabilities of the cloud from that perspective. And Cloudera, we were a little bit behind, and we're paying the price for it right now in terms of making sure our product extends swiftly into the cloud. We did have a version that can run in the cloud, but we didn't do it in a way that is swift. Now, this month, we have already released a new version of our platform based on the combined new company between us and Hortonworks. And that new platform is called CDP, Cloudera Data Platform. And it's built from the ground up to be cloud native. So it's cloud native both for on-premise and for public cloud. At Strata this year, we'll be showing a live demo of that. Not live demo, a live version of that product is being GA'd at Strata. And the magic story there is very similar to what you guys have shown today as well with the launch of the StreamSets managed version. Is now our customers will be able to look at an existing data ops pipeline that's running on-premise for doing transformations or whatever, and all they have to do is just press a button and say, I want to run this in the cloud instead. And then the platform takes care of copying the data, the metadata, the security, the pipeline for the jobs that need to be executed, and then scale up or scale down the cloud resources to hit the requirements. And so that's a new offering that's just coming to market as we speak.
Okay, great. And I'm going to pose this to both John and Sandeep. You know, data ops is not just technology, it's really process and people. And just you guys deal more in that domain. John, some thoughts, ideas, and really kind of what is the valuable things you can kind of bring, or what assets are there for this whole data ops community?
Well, my company is me, so and what I do is write books, share knowledge, and the data ops book is now done, but that doesn't mean that data ops is done. It's just starting. That learning more and sharing knowledge as I gain, and working with companies to help implement their own transformation plan, or even help them manage the programs to make data ops reality in their organization. That's what I do.
Okay, Sandeep?
Yeah, so we have, at Buzan, we have 1,500, a community of 1,500 data scientists, and that's growing on a daily basis. And we support, you know, thousands of different projects across the federal government and some in the commercial space. And for us, I think the key in bringing that community together is sharing that information, right, at the level that we can. So we've set up a number of communities of sort of smaller communities of practice. We have a women in data science community. We have a cakes and tensors community. We have a guild that we've built out of our Stratcom and Transcom, Transportation Command business. And it's all about bringing those data scientists and data engineers together in a way that they can share what they're building, share the different client challenges that they're facing, and then really help each other, right? The other part of our business is it's you know, as I'm sure it is here as well, it's a very competitive business. Retention is a key thing for us. We're a people business. So in terms of keeping talent and getting the best talent and keeping that talent, it's important to provide variety. So the ability to share across our entire federal space the projects that we're working on and the exciting things that we're doing across these different domain areas, that helps a great deal in recruiting and keeping the best talent.
Okay, great. Joe?
Well, Trifecta's in the business of data wrangling, and I think the way that I like to think about it in the context of data ops is in that tension between automation and human intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so you can lay out logistics and you can build connectivity and build your pipelines, but things will break. Mm-hmm. And also you'll have to set things up when new things come along. Well, guess what? New things come along all the time in data. You're always incenting people to find new ways to extract value with new data sets, new ways of using that data, new analytics, new technology. So there's always people in the loop. And that tension of how do people get eyeballs on data? How do they get eyeballs on the data flowing through the pipes to see if that data is right? And how do they get eyeballs on data to transform it and to wrangle it in a way that it'll support a new application? How do they get eyeballs on new data sets that are available from third parties as well as from new internal services? All that's what we refer to as data wrangling, and it's at that interface of human intelligence, artificial intelligence, and operationalization that we operate. So a very user-facing tool in this ecosystem of tools that you put together to do data ops.
Yeah, great. Alex?
So Waterline Data has an AI-driven catalog. The big problem with working with data is you need to be able to find, understand it, get and use it in a compliant way. There's a lot of new data regulations, as you know, GDPR, CCPA, and so on. So what Waterline Data does is it applies AI and machine learning to crawl through the data and tag each field with a business term. So we call it the operational gap, right? People want to be able to use data to ask questions, but they know the terms they want to use, but data is labeled as God knows what, right? All of you probably spent a lot of time on data and know that field names could be anything, might not mean anything. So we close this gap by again, applying machine learning and trying to tag each field with the right term. You know, one of the funniest stories I ran into, I talked to a doctor once from UCSF, down here, who told me how he went on vacation and learned SQL. I said, why would you do something like that, right? I can think of lots of more fun ways to spend my vacation. He said, well, we had this problem. We took patients into the hospital and we took their blood to check for anemia. Every time we take their blood, they become more anemic. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense, but I can't change the protocol without data, right? So I spent 2 years telling IT what I want, getting the data sets, looking and saying, oh, that's wrong, that's not what I need. Once I learned SQL, in 2 weeks, I figured out nobody became more anemic after 2 days. I didn't know what I was looking for. I need to get my eyes on the data. I think that's the power and promise of data ops, is to create this agility where citizen data scientists and business people can actually get data themselves and use it. And that's the problem what Line is solving.
Yeah, no, excellent. That's a great example. And I think it really is, while as you are deploying solutions and you've been working with many customers, what are some of the architectural considerations? What are some best practices? And also lots of people are in this, is it on-prem, is it cloud, is it hybrid? What are the security, privacy concerns? Who can see what? What are some of the kind of examples or things you can share with the team here? Yeah, Alex.
So from our perspective, most of our customers are very large enterprises. So they actually have multi-cloud hybrid environments. One of the new sort of architectural directions people are going to is, instead of moving all the data all the time to different places and creating more and more silos, they begin to create a virtual view of data using a catalog and saying, look, you should be able to find what you need. Once you found it, you can provision it to wherever you need to. You can do it, you should be able to do it again using business terms, but I'm not going to move this data, I'm not going to invest into this data until somebody needs it. And with the growth of data, that's the only practical approach they're seeing, because they can't afford the resources they used to have for data warehousing, for example, where they had huge teams like spending 3 months on each data element to just make sure it's absolutely perfect. So it creates agility and lets them scale and bring on more and more users to the platform.
Great. Sandeep?
Yeah, so, again, from a DoD perspective, they have a big data problem, right? There's lots of data, and the ability to get that data to the endpoint, right? A lot of the times it's a warfighter out in theater. The ability to get that data as quickly as possible relies a lot on trust. Trusting that data is valid. So when you think about it from an architecture perspective, there's a strong reliance on-premises, legacy databases that they've grown up with over many, many years. As this transition happens to more of a cloud environment, there's multiple reasons why that's a good decision that DoD is doing, but it's very hard culturally from some of these operators to break away from that legacy source of data. So what we're seeing now is a chance for us to showcase via pilots that moving to the cloud, you can do it in a secure way. You can do it in a manner that separates the classification of data from the development of algorithms and other things that don't necessarily classify information. So to get them a little bit more comfortable with the fact that this data is going to be secure. I was just out in Stuttgart, Germany a couple of weeks ago visiting with our European Command customers, and heard a lot from our clients and our staff that they wish they were able to access that information faster. So it is about scale, and once they start seeing the power of it through various pilots, we have started seeing clients be more open to moving data stores into the cloud, leave the legacy systems where they are, and get the data that you need, curate it, and then push that into the cloud for faster accessibility.
Okay. Joe?
So in terms of architecture, you want to be making decisions today that protect your optionality for tomorrow, right? The decisions you make today should allow you to make different decisions tomorrow. Much like Cloudera, our arc has been customers who started on-prem, now are both on-prem and in multiple clouds. And so you want to think about an architecture that enables your customers to do that. So in terms of layering and architectural separation, I guess a key for me is you want to separate specification, which is something that is very human-centric, something people are doing, and they're doing it in reaction to the content of the data. So think about content of data and specification as a layer. Execution, so you can think of things like Spark, you can think of things like Google Dataflow. You want to be able to swap out your execution. And then platform, right? Is it running at AWS? Is it running at Azure? Is it running on premises? So you want to think very carefully about building your stack. So you're separating specification and assessment of data, which is a content issue, from execution, which is a frameworks and programming issue, from platform, right? You don't want to commit yourself to a stack there. You want to architecturally separate those layers. So Trifacta was designed when we started with the idea that we're going to need to run in the cloud, and we're going to need to run on-prem. And we were designed very carefully so that our layer, which is at the top there, could compile to multiple execution frameworks, which could run in multiple platforms. And we're seeing that with customers today, major banks that are both running on-prem and running in the cloud. Some of those are using like Spark on-prem and using Google Dataflow in the cloud. We also have like major healthcare providers that are making that transition. And that transition is going to take time, right? And so you want to be thinking 5 years out, 10 years out about these architectures now, because they are going to be architectures that you're going to be evolving and changing over time.
John.
Well, data is an asset, and it's going to be all over the place. It's going to be on-premise, it's going to be in cloud, and wherever it is today, it's going to change tomorrow, and it's going to constantly change. So how are you going to manage your asset? You need the equivalent of a general ledger, but rather for financial data, for your data. And so that's called metadata. And if you don't have a strong metadata capability, you have to put that high on your list, and that's essential for anything you want to do with data in the future. You need data about data, and where is it, where did it come from, what does it mean, who owns it, who's responsible for it, etc. That's my solution or suggestion.
Amar.
Actually, I'll kind of expand on what Joe said, because I fully agree with that, and that's kind of the key advice I give to our customers over and over again. It's a little bit self-serving for what Cloudera is trying to do, but actually all of us in the software community are trying to do. And before I talk about that, I have just step back a bit and go back to 100 years ago when some of the legacy software vendors started to appear without mentioning names. At the beginning, they were very nice to work with. They were building all the features we cared about. They were very reasonable in terms of their pricing compared to the value they provide. But once we got enough of our IT stacks developed within their frameworks, using their mainframes, using their COBOL languages, et cetera, we became 100% locked in. And when we became 100% locked in, that's exactly when they started to, sorry for using this word, when they start to abuse us in terms of pricing, abuse us in terms of not delivering on their promises from feature perspective or from a SLA perspective. The same exact story is repeating itself, chapter and course, in the cloud. Microsoft and Google and Amazon, they are treating their customers, trying to get them as much as they can to move up from the infrastructure layer, which is a non-sticky layer, very easy to move away from, to the services layer, where they really have the customers locked in. And that's their goal. And if you look at everything they do right now, it's all about that. And if they succeed in doing that, then now you're back to the same story, repeating itself. In 5 years, I guarantee you, these vendors will start to increase the prices up to the point where they know it will cost you too much to rewrite, to migrate somewhere else. So what many of us are advocating for in the software industry, that when it comes to hybrid cloud, the key architectural decision you should make should be around how can I build my infrastructure and my services in the cloud in a way that gives me the optionality of protecting my choice 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So if one of these vendors comes and starts to abuse me in terms of pricing, I can tell them tomorrow morning I'm moving. And not that I'm going to move tomorrow morning, but once you tell them that, they would lower the price. But if you can't call that bluff with confidence, the price will go up. So that's what many of us are working on, is giving you that abstraction that allows you to retain that freedom across the cloud environments, but also on-premise.